Hi there, ladies. Good afternoon. It is Sarah Shipton here from Scrapbooking with Sarah, and this is a pre-recorded video ready to be posted for you on Tuesday, December 29 for this week's Technique Tuesday. So I will take this opportunity to say I hope that you all had a lovely Christmas and enjoyed your festive time eating and drinking and spending time with family, friends, and your loved ones. When you watch this video, I will actually be home, but probably super jet lagged. I'm here for 2 days, and I thought that I would pre-record this video so that I do not have to stress about it on the 29th of December, the day after we get home. So I hope that you have all enjoyed the weekly scrapbooking challenges that I've been sharing with you and my pre-recorded videos that I have also been sharing with you. This week, we are creating a double page layout, and we are working with pattern 3G, which is called Sidebar Photo Accent. It is on page 46 of the Reflections Scrapbook How To program. We are going back to basics, and I am super, super happy with how this particular layout has actually turned out. So to recreate this layout, you are going to need 2 sheets of either designer series paper or cardstock for your base pages. As you can see here, I have used designer series paper as my base, and this is a beautiful pattern with the color of Darling Duckling. And I did actually cut out a square on the base of my scrapbook page, so I'm not wasting this beautiful pattern paper, and I've got these 2 squares that I can use for some other scrapbooking. You are also going to need another 2 sheets of either coordinating cardstock or designer series paper, which you're going to cut at 11 by 11 inches. And then this square piece of cardstock, oh my gosh, this square piece of cardstock that you're cutting at 11 by 11 inches, you're going to stick over your pattern paper. Now I eyeball this, it's going to go right in the middle, but you're basically half an inch down from the top and half an inch in from the side. But if you cut that by 11, if you cut it by 11 by 11, then you're going to have this beautiful half-inch border the whole way around. In order to cut my square out on the inside, because this piece is 11 by 11, I cut my square out at 10.5 by 10.5. So I had to take 1.5 inches off around all the around the outside to be able to get that square taken off inside my designer series paper. You are also going to cut out 2 strips of either designer series paper or cardstock. This is a great one to do for scraps. You might just have some leftover designer series paper in a paper pack, and you're going to cut these 2 strips at 2 inches. 2 inches by 12. And then you're going to stick that 2-inch piece 2 inches from the outside of your scrapbook layout, flush up against the top and the bottom. Okay, so you're going to bring that 2 inches in. And then this half-inch strip of either cardstock or designer series paper, you might even have some zip strips left over. You're going to stick that flush up against the edge of this 12-inch piece. So I've used some of the Lost Lagoon designer series paper, and then I've also used Lost Lagoon cardstock and buttered that right up against my designer series paper. And then I've cut my letters out in Calypso Coral. So I've gone Darling Duckling, Lost Lagoon, and Calypso Coral as my combo. With your photos, the thing I love about this orientation here, so we've got an example here. You're going to have 3 photos running down over your sidebar, and it's called photo accent because the photo accents are going to be on top of your sidebar. These photos are cut at 3 by 3 inches. So I've got 3 by 3 inch photos running down the side here. I'm going to come back to that journaling box in a moment. Then in the middle here, you've got an option for an 8 by 6 inch photo. Well, that was just saying to me, hello, 2 4 by 6 inch photos. Now you could actually have your 4 by 6 inch photos meeting in the middle, like you could do there, replace that with 2 4 by 6 inch photos. You might even have an 8 by 6, but I've actually left a little gap, as you can see here. So I've brought my photo half an inch in and half an inch down from this 11 by 11 inch piece of cardstock. I've put that at the top and then at the bottom. So I've got 4 landscape 4x6 photos there, and I've run my title, The Gold Coast, through the middle of the page. I did initially have both the photos up and I was going to do the title down here. And I thought, no, let's do something different, because we've done lots of layouts over the last couple of months where the titles have been at the bottom or running down the sides. I thought, let's put it right through the middle here. And I love that little pop of color. So the color choice was a little unique for me. I have to say, this was probably not going to be my first option, but I've brought in some of the warmer tones you can see with the sunset and the drinks in the fridge here. There's some warm tone in the back of these photos, some yellow, and that's actually orange, but it looks really great with the Calypso coral. And then we've got some of the Lost Lagoon colors here in the furniture. And we've got this cute little koala bear here. He's got some blues, yellows, and pinks on him. So I thought that those colors tied in really nicely. And the last few layouts I've done with this particular suite, this is the Brushed with Beauty Suite collection. And the last few layouts I've done with this particular suite have been very floral and neutral colors as well. So I thought, let's go with a bit of pop of color for the Gold Coast, the good old GC, hey girls. So, and I've brought in a new nail color for you all today, Crumb Cake. So I'm actually recording this 2 days before I'm due to fly out, and the red nail polish is gone. I don't know how I feel about this. This looks a little different, but I wanted to go with something neutral for our holiday. Okay, so with your photo placement for the inside, entirely up to you in terms of your dimensions. Your 3x3s on over the outside. Again, I've come 1/2 inch down with this top photo, 1/2 inch up with the bottom photo, and then I've just eyeballed that photo in the middle. And then in terms of, I've put that pretty much over the top of these 2 pieces of paper here with even space either side. Okay, now let's talk about this journal box, because I love this. There was literally no room really left to do any journaling. And this is also why you might note there's not a huge amount of embellishments on this particular layout. So a couple of reasons. Obviously, this beautiful background paper and the painted Lost Lagoon, the big title. There really wasn't much room left for embellishments. And I did actually cut out a few of the die cuts. So I have already shared these with you over the last few Technique Tuesdays. These are the Petals of Beauty dies. I did actually cut out some green and I had some vellum ones. And I'm like, you know what? I just wasn't feeling it. And just a good reminder that not every page needs to be taken up with a whole heap of embellishments. It is okay to have the main focus being your photos and, of course, your journaling. Now, I've actually got these layouts. I'm just going to pop this in the memory protector here so you can see what I've done here. So I've got a little 3x3 inch square flip flap. This is Dazza cooking our breakfast in the apartment. Little nibbles plate. A card game. I have to share the photos of this, the story of these photos with you. So this was a holiday that we took, a family holiday that we took back in 2021. It was up to the Sunshine Coast. We initially flew into the Sunshine Coast, or maybe we flew into the Gold Coast and then drove up. I can't really remember, to be honest. But we got all the way up to our accommodation, and literally, like, I think it was the day after or even 2 days after that, there was this massive COVID outbreak in southeast Queensland, something to do with some Portuguese tarts. And the Premier at the time, Anna Palaszczuk, pulled a lockdown, like this 3-day, well, we didn't know how long the lockdown was going to be for, but they literally pulled this lockdown specifically just for certain shires in southeast Queensland. And of course, that's where we were. And poor Kayla, we were actually moving from the Sunshine Coast down to the Gold Coast for part of the holiday. And we were like, what do? Do we stay where we are and do the lockdown here? Do we move and do the lockdown down there? And then poor Kayla actually had to fly home. She was FIFO, but on a 2-in-1 roster, rang her boss, and they basically were like, well, you need to come home because the Premier here at the time, Stephen Marshall, basically said that anyone that had been to southeast Queensland returning had to go into a 14-day quarantine. And poor Kayla, she had to leave us to come home to do her 14-day quarantine, which was her 2 weeks that she was home before she could go back to work. It was just a big nightmare. So poor Kayla went home, and then Darren, Jai and I went to this apartment on the Gold Coast to do the lockdown. And this is what these photos are about, the time that we had in our apartment, enjoying our lockdown. Plenty of food and beverage, as you could see. We had lots of room. He's dry, looking out at everyone down below. Beautiful story here. So with my journaling box, I did something a little bit different here. You can see I've got it underneath the flip flap. So I love to have my photos on top. I've cut a 3x3 inch square of Darling Duckling cardstock, just to point out that with the cardstock, I've actually used the lighter tone of Darling Duckling with this particular layout. So I cut out 2 3x3 inch, and this story, I really wanted to journal this story in detail. And so I've actually ruled my lines at 1/4 inch, but I've told my story this way. So my flip flap, the sentence, actually the line reads along. Okay, the sentence reads along that top line, and then so forth and so forth. Not all of this and then all of that. So I thought that was something a little bit different with the journaling, a great way, because I didn't have another photo and I needed to fill that space. So I thought, well, I'm going to go 2 journal boxes, but make it 1, right? I thought that was a fun tip there for you ladies. So I'm going to take that back out now that we have got that sorted, because I want to show you the technique that I'm doing today. So that is the layout. Party alphabet dies. I've got a little bit of the bling here. They were the last of my Pearls of Beauty in the Calypso Coral. This also comes in crumb cake and white. So the technique that I was doing is actually distressing your cardstock, okay? And I've only done this 11 by 11 inch square, and I think it looks super cool. I love it how it kind of folds in as well, which I thought was pretty cool. Now, I did use an old distressing tool that I had in my disposal, but you can also get this same technique by using your micro tip scissors or your paper snip scissors, depending on which pair of scissors you've got. I have had some questions about the paper snip scissors, and at the time of me recording this video on November 21, we do not have scissors at the moment. Stampin' Up is still in the process of sourcing a new vendor for scissors, so these are no longer being manufactured and sold via Stampin' Up. So you can use either of these pair of scissors. Sit tight, because we are in the process of organizing a alternative. Now let me grab some cardstock so I can demonstrate this to you. Oh, let me get this Darling Duckling piece, because then you can see the difference between the Darling Duckling. See how it's much darker, right? And I was like tossing and turning, which one do I do? But I've gone with the lighter one, and I think it looks much nicer in terms of tones of the photos. So if you've got your paper snip scissors or your micro tip scissors, all you're going to do to distress this, let me move that out the way, because you're going to shred paper off of this, is you are going to pull the edge of the micro tip scissors along the edge, and don't be concerned if that happens, okay, because it's meant to look like that. You're going to pull the edge of the scissors along your cardstock, and you end up with this really nice rough distressed piece. It's kind of a little bit like nails going down the blackboard, I'm not going to lie. Please be careful, and you want to do this incrementally, because you do not want to end up with these micro tip scissors or paper snips scissors stabbing you in your thumb. Crafting is not a dangerous sport, but you know, things do happen, so you want to be careful with that. So we're just going around and distressing the edges of the cardstock with your scissors. Now, the really cool thing with this particular layer as well is you're going to see the white core cardstock of your larger piece. I think it just helps to kind of make that pop a little bit. I'm just going to get all of that off. I think it does help to make that bit of cardstock really pop on the top of your designer series paper. But that is the only technique I've done, other than adding some dots to that and a flip flap. That is the only technique I've done. And I think it kind of looks nice and subtle and understated, because this is what actually pops. When I look at this, that's the part of the layout that I really notice, okay? So that is my very quick Technique Tuesday for you today, ladies. I hope you all have a wonderful week creating and crafting. I can't wait to see what you come up with this week for this week's challenge. And don't forget that the winner of the weekly challenges for December, I'm going to do a monthly draw, but I'm not going to do that until probably the second week of January when I'm back in the office. I'm going to be drawing a winner for December, and one lucky person is going to win $50 worth of my stamping rewards that I'm going to gift to you. So you'll get a ticket in the draw for recreating this layout. You'll also get a bonus ticket in the draw if you do this added technique of distressing your cardstock. Thank you very much for watching, ladies. I take this opportunity to wish you all a very happy new year for December 31st. Happy New Year for the 1st of January. I hope you all have a wonderful New Year's Eve. We're going to be spending our first New Year's Eve in Adelaide for the first time in 22 years. Can you believe it? So we will be enjoying New Year's Eve here at home with friends, and then we're heading off to the beautiful York Peninsula for our annual camping trip, and I can't wait. Not long, I'm on the countdown to see Miss Kayla in beautiful Port Rickaby. So thank you all for watching, ladies. Have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you for next week's Technique Tuesday. Take care. Bye for now.